Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wonderful occasion here to get together tonight to celebrate the Sol Plaatje European Union Poetry Award and Anthology. It's a wonderful project that sees South African poets from all over the country contribute in their home languages, their thoughts, their emotions, their hopes, their dreams, their fears. And we take great pride in being part of this exercise so ably run by Jacana Media. One of the great pleasures I have this evening is to welcome the European Union's Deputy Ambassador, Raoul de Lutzenberger, up on stage to address you and say a few words ahead of the prize giving this evening. Ambassador.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, you are here in the audience and those who are following us online. I'm very happy to be here tonight for this Poetry Africa this evening. I'm absolutely delighted by the level of interest in poetry in South Africa. It's the fourth year that I attend this event. And I found it always very interesting, lively, and of excellent quality. To the organizers of Poetry Africa, a deeply sincere thank you for welcoming the Sol Plaatje European Union Poetry Award back as part of your lineup at this magnificent festival. A big thank you to the Howard College who is having us here in these fantastic premises. South African poetry is making waves internationally. Just think of the recent success of Haibo Will, who won the World Slam Poetry Competition. And this past weekend, a number of wonderful South African spoken word artists associated with the EU-funded Music for Words project performed in South Africa together with visiting groups from Europe and beyond. But back to the Sol Plaatje European Union Poetry Award. I hope that those of you who know what it is all about will acquire a copy or two of the anthology. It's this one, and it's a very beautiful one. And I have the entire collection, so I really recommend that you take the effort, and buy them. And it's a great gift, and a lot of people will love it. So for those of you who come across the award for the first time here this evening, allow me to provide a bit of background. The competition and its resultant anthology, launched here a little earlier this evening, are one of the very few literary platforms in South Africa that welcome and promote all of South Africa's official languages. The beauty of this book, of this anthology, is that the works captures the thoughts, sentiments, and the most personal emotions of many of the contributors in their own home language. This is something that is greatly valued by the European Union, where you may not know, but we have 24 official languages that exist side by side. And those of you who have traveled within the EU will know that multilingualism is part of the European Union experience. But let me say a little bit more, because this is the EU, this is what we are. All our countries, our member states, are different. If you take Italy, Austria, Germany, Sweden, France, Malta, Greece, Bulgaria, Poland, they're all very different. They all speak different languages. They all have different cultures. We have learned throughout now, 60 years of history and more, we have learned that we need to look at what brings us together, not what makes us different. But at the same time, we have learned that the importance of our cultures and the fact that we need to be proud of what we are and who we are, and that we can contribute by bringing this together to something that is new, diverse, open, ready to accept the others, tolerant, and at the same time is deeply rooted in our cultures and contributes with all that we have to put. Hopefully, we contribute to the world, and we would like to contribute to peace in the world. Now, the EU contribution to the Tshekisho Plaatje award makes us part of is part of our wider support to cultural initiative in South Africa. The EU member states are traditionally very active in cultural support, and I'm very glad to see that the Poetry Africa is supported also by France. The European Union is a more recent actor in terms of culture, but it's a very active one and is coming with a lot of initiatives, many inside the European Union and many of them outside the European Union. And the Tshekisho Plaatje European Union Poetry Award and Anthology are part of this effort, but are also, we started much earlier. It's now 10 years that we have this cooperation. The other interventions, including in South Africa, include the EU-funded cultural relations platform Music for Words, through which local artists traveled to Poland and met a range of other creativities actors. And another recent example is the EU support through the European Union National Institute for Culture, UNIC, for the Right to Speak project that focuses on poetry and human rights. Let me conclude with a few thank you. First, a heartfelt thank you to the hundreds of poets who took the time and the effort to submit their poems for the competition. Equally, thank you to the esteemed panel of judges who spent many long hours in selecting and rating the works submitted. A very special vote of thanks to Professor Mungai Wailisirkote, South Africa's poet laureate, who again took on the role of head judge. No less important, thank you to Jacana Media and the non-profit Jacana Literary Foundation for the unwavering committee to making the award and its anthology, now in their 11th edition. This Jacana may not only happen, but grow into one of South Africa's literary success and stories, and seeing it from the other side, those who cooperate with them and finance them, I know how difficult this is, so I'm really grateful to you. Thank you very much. And thank you to the poets.
evening, everyone. Hi. My name is Kellyanne Mauer, and I am the administrator for the Jacana Literary Foundation, sorry. For those who are unfamiliar with the Jacana Literary Foundation, we are a non-for-profit organization which seeks to promote and foster excellent writing in South and Southern Africa through a number of initiatives, such as the Solomon Tshekisho Award. This year, we received over 600 entries, comprising 8 of the official languages, and a significant reversal from previous years. Poems in English did not predominate. The long list of poems written in a range of South Africa's official languages has been selected by a panel of 5 esteemed judges. Sandile Ngidi reviewed the English entries, Goodenough Mashego, Dr. Tshekisho Plaatje, Aubrey Neyosefala, they reviewed the indigenous language entries, and Peter Odendel reviewed the Afrikaans entries. The head judge and South Africa's poet laureate, Dr. Wally Serote, selected the shortlist of 3 poems, a winner, and 2 runners-up. And we're so proud to have these 3 finalists here today, who will be coming up to read their poems for us. We would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the judges who had an enormous task this year and who did such an amazing job of selecting our shortlist, which you can all read in this year's 11th volume of the Solomon Tshekisho anthology. Our grateful thanks as ever to Dr. Serote for his constant support for the award. And finally, a big thank you to Frank Oberholzer, the European Union Ambassador's spokesperson, for his annual guidance, as well as Cedric Sissing from Ike's Books, who is a mainstay in the KZN book world, and a sincere thank you to you for allowing us to be introduced to the Poetry Africa team and for allowing us to be on the stage. Final thank you is to the Poetry Africa team, Dr. Mohammed and Karen Jumba and the entire team for allowing us to present this award here today. So without further ado, we are going to hear from our finalists. I know Ashley's very nervous, but Ashley, if you could come up on stage, please. So our first finalist is Ashley Jenna Allard, who's 21 years old. So a little bit about Ashley Jenna Allard. She's 21 years old and has been writing for 11 of them. She's a third-year English literature and French language student at Stellenbosch University who hopes to pursue a career in creative writing. Ashley is assistant editor for South African Youth Scene, I'm pronouncing that correctly, which specializes in promoting young South African creators. When not writing, you can hear her raving about her favorite books and TV series to anyone who would listen. So here is Ashley, and her poem is An Ode to Ingrid Jonker.
Hello everyone. Before I came here, I was told that I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to fill that time with a little bit of context to my poem. So I was first inspired to write this poem. It was in June, and I was in the back of my mom's car driving down Clarence Drive. And Clarence Drive is one of the most beautiful drives in the Western Cape, definitely. And then as you drive, suddenly the cliffs just dissipate, and all you can see is the ocean and the sun glittering on the waves. And the first thing I could think of is I understood why Ingrid Jonker decided to end her life the way it did, because of how beautiful the ocean is. So I felt like I could understand her in that moment. So then on the way back, I decided to write the following poem, which I'll be reading to you now. So, the poem is called Ode to Ingrid Jonker. I understand how the crash of the waves, how the call of the birds, flying in perfect formation, how the innate pull of the tide can be seen as an invitation, how the soapy sea foam and the deepest blue are seen as more hospitable than the shattered mosaic of fragmented shells scattered across the sand that holds the shape of your foot, a memory. I understand how the first kisses of the waves, like your mother softly lulling you to sleep, make you want to wander deeper and deeper into the icy cold. How the gentle brush of seaweed and soft scratch of sea urchins, your final warnings of do not proceed, only encourage you to go further and further in. I understand that you would choose to quietly dissolve into the depths and endlessness where you get lost and forgotten, floating, suspended in the darkest blue, over surviving in the harsh and sickening and loud and boisterous tumultuousness of the world above the waves, where everyone needs everything constantly and always and never allow you to just breathe. But please don't forget that back on the shore, the sand still holds the shape of your foot, a memory, even if it is just until the tide comes in.
Magnificent. Thank you, Ashley. Next, I would like to call up Lucas. Lucas. So, Lucas Tshekisho Zulu is a South African poet, writer, and publisher. His work is published in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ireland, Singapore, Canada, India, and the United States of America. He writes both in English and Zulu. He lives in Emahleni, in Mpumalanga province, and the work that he submitted was in Zulu. Is this? Take it away.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My poem, the title of my poem is Tabanga. It is written in Zulu language. So I'm going to read it in Zulu language. Isihloko sayo sithi Cabanga. Cabanga nje ukuthi kunjani ukuba esibayeni esingenankunzi lapho kuhlala ubona kuphela inkomanzi namathole ayo zingenayo insika umashenqi emuke ngendlala njengamabele. Yonke ingane idinga ubaba, bonke ubaba badinga izingane. Ngisho nezindebe bezingathanda ukuba namazibulo namathunjana. Inkunzi idliwe yintaba, amakonyana aqashwe kunina, asingathwe ngunina. Umashenqi ushiye isibongo esingenaso isinanazelo. Inkunzi azange isabhekisa amaphondo emuva. Yafaka umlomo esinqumweni, izindlela esikhotheni. Amakonyana azinakazi anothile esibayeni ngebisi elinothile ngothando lukamama. Umashenqi ukhomba ngaphakathi. Amakonyana nonina badla imbuya ngothi. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lucas. Okay. So, finally, we have Sydney Davis. Come on stage, please, Sydney. Thank you. So, Sydney Davis was born in Retreat on the Cape Flats on the 4th of April, 1948, the son of a fisherman and the second youngest of 10 siblings. He attended Thomas Woolship Primary and Witterboomer High School, where his love for poetry was fueled by two Afrikaans teachers, Mr. John Hendricks and Mr. Henry Erasmus. After completing his theological studies at the University of the Western Cape, he served as a pastor for 25 years before entering the NGO sector.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Looking at me, you will see there is no expiry date to poetry. I need to give you some background because I don't see many people around here that I suspect can understand Afrikaans. There's at least one. Oh, there's quite a couple. Right, so daar is mense wat sal verstaan wat ek sê. But let me give you some context and background on the poem. The poem is titled Basterkind, and it's a personification of the Afrikaans language. Afrikaans is my moedertaal, but as I grew up, Afrikaans to me was always a very conflicting mother and confusing at times. When I was at school, we were taught standaard Afrikaans, and you had to be able to write that proper Afrikaans. But when I left the classroom and went back to my home, that was not the language that we spoke at home, because we spoke Afrikaans, Kaapse Afrikaans. Yes. So this was always the dualism for me in terms of Afrikaans. And then also in terms of the origin of Afrikaans, we were taught about the genootskap vir regte Afrikaners en die Parel, wat die mense was, the people where this language originated. Until after our liberation, the language, the history was rewritten, and we understood that it was the Khoi and the San and the slaves who couldn't speak the Hollandse taal so lekker, and they made up their own language, and that's where Afrikaans originated from. I address this poem to everyone that has struggled with their mother tongue, which is Afrikaans. Bastardkind, by geboorte het jou wit voorgeslag jou misken, oorlaat jou Khoi gelaatstrekke en kroeshare sigbaar deurgeslaan het. Maar soos jy opgegroot het, het jy al meer uitgeblyk en kon jy try vir white. Toe het die regte Afrikaners jou geëien. 'n handige pion, 'n woordwragtige wapen in die stryd om Afrikaner identiteit. Vandag pryk daar vir jou in die Parel 'n monument met spitspunte wat na die hemel reik, asof jy, soos Jesus, deur God self verwek is. Meanwhile wonder die familie op die kykflats of jy ook eendag, soos Randall, voor jou heen gaan, sal huis toe kom. I thank you.
I would now like to call up the poetry anthology and South Africa's poetry laureate, Dr. Onisoti, to say a few words.
Deputy Ambassador of the European Union, Excellency Raoul de Lozenberger. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Tina Mtope, our outstanding poet and creative person who has come here to be with us. My brother Mohammed, thank you for hosting us. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, three poets using three different reference points arrive at the same understanding. And their understanding is, as creative people, what must we do to remind ourselves as creative people, but to remind the people of this country about what it is to be humane. One sees the sea, engages it. We had here. One seeks a metaphor about inkunzi, which is a bull, and thinks about the many, many families in our country which are fatherless, and how uses this image of the bull which wanders, having left the stable, having left the cow, having left the calves. And then the crux of the matter comes in also. we would not be looking at each other like this. We would not have had them, the three of them, give us the seed, the bull, and language, which made the crux of the difference. But what I'm saying is that with these three different points of reference and approach, being South Africans, they've not forgotten one very crucial thing. What is it that we should be doing to remain humane? This is the crux of the matter. Everything else is said, but what I'm picking in their poems is that. And the speaker of what do you call the people who address media for organizations? Spokesperson from the EU, and I was standing outside, in a sense also trying to address the question of humaneness. I suspect he and I agreed when we said we were asking ourselves the question about where the world is now. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, we are seriously at a crossroads in the world. And I can say this because I'm appealing to the creative ability of the creatives who are here to say, we cannot be bystanders as the issues in Ukraine and Russia are developing. My estimate, Your Excellency, is that we've reached a very dangerous moment where if we're not careful, we will see an escalation of tit for tat with fire. So I'm just doing my duty as a creative person, as a South African, appealing to the creatives who are here, who for this year will be the outstanding three, to say it would seem to me that we should explore and say, what is it that we should do to ask, demand, and be creative for peace? Maybe as you have touched as each one of you has touched us with different subjects, the sea, the bull, the language, maybe when you take this thing about peace, it can touch our hearts and it can touch the hearts of the world. So I'm appealing to that. But the other matter is that for time immemorial, the African continent, South Africa, is taken a non-aligned position to say there are problems in the world which we have to solve. The poets talk about them. Young woman walks into the sea and disappears. It's not normal. Probe and say, why did she do that? A people who were completely disadvantaged because they were completely oppressed and not recognized, found a language for themselves so that they can speak for their being and their presence and their rights. If you go into our rural areas and into our township, there are many homestays without borders. This is what we're hearing today. And as I summarized, I said we're being pulled into very negative situation, but which also pulls us and asks us how humane can we become, so that we learn from this negativity and produce positivity out of it. And I'm saying this is a time, this is a theme that we must borrow for today. As we launch this anthology, with the help from our friends, 3 friends who are here, a gift to South Africa, but also very important, this gift from South Africa supported by Europe. And because it is supported by Europe, it becomes a gift to humanity also. And it is my hope that we'll find a way to push it in that way. I've said for 11 years, deep in the night, looking at 100 poems, 200 poems, 300 and so, and having to go through. And I can say, so that you who are writers take that with you. Deputy Ambassador has referred to that, which we must take with us. There is a serious commitment to creativity in our country. And it is not creativity for its sake. It is a creativity which tries to claim that as human beings, we will never agree to the objects of history, but as human beings, we will always claim, we will always, in our mind, in our spirit, and with all the energy that we have, we will always claim to be masters of history. And with those words, congratulations, and thank you very much. I can see you sitting at your desk or somewhere deep at night. She thinking about the sea, he thinking about the food, my brother thinking about a very precious gift of creation, language. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Surati. Now, while I believe that all 3 of our finalists should be awarded as the winner, unfortunately, we have to give first, second, and third place, which we'll do now. So can I ask His Excellency if you can come up? Mr. Raoul?
Okay, so let's start. Sydney Davis awarded 3rd place for the poem Pasika. Thank you very much. Bravo. So Ashley Allard, 2nd place for the poem Ode to Ingrid Jonker. And Lucas Dilisina Zulu achieved the 1st place. Congratulations. Congratulations.
that's it, everybody. The 11th volume of the Soul Plaatje anthology will be for sale from Civic Sitting outside. And we'd just like to thank everybody for being here today. Thank you and have a good evening. Bye.